Nita, I'm going to ask you, where do you think it comes from, this creativity? The big question.
The big question, right. Well, first of all, I just want to ask here, how many people are familiar with Michael Neal? 1, 2, almost everybody, but not quite. Okay, doesn't matter. It just was going to give me a bit of a context. And I think what I would like to do in terms of your question is really invite everybody to think about the question and let's have a dialogue about it, because then we can see something fresh that maybe we haven't seen before. Someone else comes up with an idea and like, oh, never thought of that. So yeah. I had a ton of questions that I thought, oh, these would be fun to toss around and see what we came up with. And so actually, one of the first questions I thought of was, what percentage of the population do you think is creative? And is everybody unmuted?
No,
Jasmine?
it is muted. I have Loba that's unmuted. Okay. I can unmute everybody. Unmute all. What work? Okay, we're all unmuted.
Okay, so I'm just curious what you think. What do you think the percentage is?
100.
100.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody.
Me too.
Me too. Now.
You're going with the group. So why do you say that?
Well, I just think that is just a part of human nature, creativity, if just the desire to follow energy, follow just the source of life energy is creation energy, and it has just many forms. And I think just our idea about what creativity means tends to become maybe a little bit narrow, but just to realize the many expressions of creating or being in the flow or being open to receiving and being open to participate in that cycle of receiving and giving in whatever form that takes place, sound or listening or holding a space for a conversation, and just all the many ways, cooking, I mean, it's just endless. So in that way, I feel that, and just starting with the fact that we're all in the womb, and so there is a rhythm, we're exposed to sound, and that in itself is just the most basic form of being in contact with that force of creation.
That's great. I love that. Anyone else have a thought about creativity and what it is, what it means, where it comes from?
The way I see it is we all have this life force energy in us, and it's not just in humans, but it's in the grass, it's in the trees, it's in the bugs and everything. And all of it comes with that innate ability to create. It's like the intention of the life force energy, and as it imbues all beings, the essence and the design and the intention of it is innately creative. And then how we express that is unique to the uniqueness of our story, of our lives, of our skills and our perceptions. But I don't think there's any limitation to the creativity. It's like the universal consciousness coming into form.
Mm-hmm. That's lovely. Anyone else have a thought about that?
I love your thought, Summer. And I think that every human being is creative in any second. And sometimes we forget about it. And sometimes we have a lot of thoughts about it. But in the end, we are alive. And alive means being creative. Create alive.
Oh, that's lovely. Be really hard to disagree with you on that one.
15 years ago, I had totally a different thinking.
And why did that change?
Why did that change? It was in the end of my time as a student, and my mentor used a team management system for team building processes. And we all did this test, and I had 3 roles, and one of these roles, they wrote it like this: you are more creative than you are more creative than 90% of the population. And I read that and I thought, that couldn't be me. But then I started to change my thinking. I started to think about what else can be meant by creativity. And that is the solution, the result.
I love that. Because what I hear in that, and I'm interested, Jasmine, in what you hear too, with what everyone has said, but I think that that question about what, really asking yourself what is creativity, just from everyone's examples, if we're not careful, we tend to pigeonhole it. Creativity only means, get the paint out, or start typing on the keyboard, or something. And we forget that deciding what to wear in the morning, or what we're going to eat, or how we arrange flowers, or how we do everything is a creative act.
Yeah.
And we forget, right? Especially when we get in our own way.
I will never forget my first thought about it. My first thought was, I have ideas the whole day. That was the first thought, and it was some kind of, it opened the door. I don't know how to explain it better.
I think beautifully expressed.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what I see. It's thoughts that kind of show up, right? It's like when you I think here's what comes to me, like, that's from what you were saying, Nina, we pigeonhole it. So like if I classify that creativity as only for artists, or let's say painters, for example, then I can't see my own creativity, And for me, it was, musicians and music and all of this. And I remember even when I was a musician, I was like, no, I'm not creative. And that's not true. Everybody has their own flavor. Everybody has their own color, their own way of creating. Like I remember, like, as we were talking, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm creative with cooking. I never got that I was creating with cooking. I classified it as, oh, I'm a good cook, but really I'm creative. Like I can whip up something. And where does that come from? My mind, that's where I see it. Like, like I kind of go, what do I have?
Yeah. What that suggests to me is that creativity starts with a question, whether it's a conscious one or an unconscious one. What else is possible? What's here? What can I do with this?
Nina, I remember when we when we set up the chat, when we just had a chat and you said, okay, what date are we choosing? You said something that was really interesting. And because what I saw was, you know, in order to call myself a creative, it has to look good. You know, it has to, and if it doesn't, I would stop myself. You know, like say knit, right? I would knit, but it looked ugly. So then I was like, I'm not good. I'm going to stop. So I had it like has to be good, has to be bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that conversation, what you made me see was, well, everything looks like something when you first do it, you know, and yeah, sometimes you're going to be like, it's going to look appealing to you. Still, it could look unappealing to you also. It's like it's a different, it's not because you decided to qualify it, to thingify it as a good or a good looking, or that you should stop doing or trying. Can you talk a little bit more about that, Nina? Because I remember you really like triggered something in me.
I don't exactly remember what that was, but I'll give it a shot. And I'll give you an example. When my undergraduate degree is in fine art, and I didn't do it for a long time after I got out of school, and then I focused on a couple areas. I was doing calligraphy. I had a calligraphy business, and I had a flower design business when I lived in Manhattan in another life. And maybe this was 10 years ago, might have been more, I started getting into collage work, abstract collage work. And I took a course with a woman who I just fell in love with. She was fearless. And I was just finding my way, and actually two women, but one woman in particular. And I noticed that there were times when I was in the studio, I'd go take these 4 or 5 day workshops, where I would get nauseous when I was trying to do something new, because I had so much in my head about, oh, this looks bad, or they're doing a great job and I'm not, and I hate this color, and you know, all the thoughts just that were going around in my head, and it would make me feel nauseous. And this happened more than once, and finally I put 2 and 2 together, and I realized all of that self-talk was keeping me from just playing, just, you know, Michael Neal calls it mucking about, just messing around, making a mess. And I did a couple projects in the last year or so, and I really want to do a TED Talk about what making art can teach us about life, because I see in the process, particularly with abstract or expressive art, that the qualities that are worth cultivating are the ones that make you really have fun when you're being creative or you're making art. And one of them, you know, to talk in Michael Neal language, is not having a lot on it. Like, make a mess, who cares? Ugly, who cares? It doesn't matter, because it's not about me, but it's about something coming through me that, you know, whether you call it that infinite creative potential of the universe coming through me, if I let it, if I get out of my thinking, that there are so many things we can do if we don't impose our own mental limitations on what it needs to look like, or whether it's a good reflection of who I think I am. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anybody have any experience or know what I'm talking about there?
Yeah, yes, I do. When you were speaking, it also reminds me of what happens for me when I'm practicing my instrument. I'm a flutist, and so to move, I mean, to create the sound, there's always times when it's just continuing to stay sometimes with something that can be uncomfortable. I mean, on some level, I can hear the sound that's happening today is not a sound I like, but that's not to say that I therefore stop, because it's just how the weather here, the inside weather is manifesting. So to just stay with the discomfort and yet keep sort of showing up for it and be okay with just moving through and into it, and it will change. There's always the modulations of the soul and all sorts of other things that are being expressed, and so that's what I'm learning, really, just doing it anyway. And what you're speaking of, in just messing around and experimenting, I feel too there's always that component of just keep going, just hang in there and keep playing. Isn't always fun, even though it sounds like it should be always fun, but sometimes there's sort of rocky spots too.
Yeah. Oh, I love what you're saying.
Hi, I'm Sue. I'm sorry I'm late. I hosted a call that ended right before this one. Nice to meet you, Jasmine, and hi, Nina, and new people. And I want to go back to what Jasmine said a minute ago, but sometimes you look at it and you like it, and sometimes you look at it and you don't. And I watch that, and I watch myself go through all kinds of, sometimes I'll look at a piece again and only be able to see the flaws. And sometimes the flaws will be too much for me and I toss it, and sometimes it'll be okay and I'll keep it, and and sometimes I just see it and go, eh. But also the thing about the mucking about part, Nina, I mean, I've gotten to a place finally where I don't care as much. I don't have as much agony about what doesn't seem to be working out right. I'm a fluid artist, so I do acrylic pours, and sometimes I go too far and it's just like shit. And I don't stress it as much. I'm playing with it so much more. It's like, oh, and I'm gonna try this. And that's coming through me much more than now that I'm not taking my evaluation so seriously.
Yeah. That is so, it's really wise to not take ourselves so seriously sometimes, especially when we think it's about us.
Yeah.
This is a reflection of who I am and how much I've learned. And one of the first collage classes I took, I was doing stuff, and the teacher I worked with was just fast. It's like, okay, put it down. 3 seconds, go to the next thing, go to the next thing. You didn't have time to start saying, oh, does this look good or does that look bad? But after we stopped, then I was looking at it and I thought, yeah, this really looks bad. And she looked at me and she said, it's only paper. I thought, oh yeah, that's right. And I had so much thinking that was in the way of just being able to say, oh, it's just marks on a paper. It's just, it has no judgment to it. It's just a thing that happened, that came through me. It doesn't mean anything, but I was so intent on ascribing meaning to it that I think that's one of the things that will get in my own way of being more creative. So I'm curious, with all of you, what gets in your way?
Well,
You're all creative types.
yeah, I have to share that one of the things for me that was a novel idea. Like it was kind of like, it was like an epiphany for me. It was kind of like you, and you guys all touched it. It was being okay with the uncomfortable. With, like I really have it like good I can be with, not good I can't be with. So looking good I can be with, looking bad I can't be with. And And that makes me uncomfortable. And, you know, if you guys got to know me, you know that I'm all about comfort. It's about, you know, like me doing this from the comfort of my home is like, yeah, I love it. And it's not a bad thing. However, it becomes a bad thing. Not really the right word, but it kind of gets in the way sometimes. And it gets in the way of my creativity. That's definitely one place where if if I stick to no, I want to be comfortable, well, I'll never be creative. You know, I'll never be able to. I'm just looking at the process of creating these chats. You know, this is my 4th chat like this, and I was stopped for 2 years prior to this. Now I had other things happen in my life that were inevitable. I stopped working, but I looked at videos prior to that, and I was like in this flow. And then I had to stop, and then I couldn't start back again because I had all the thinking of I needed to be comfortable, and I'm not comfortable.
Good
Right?
point.
So
Anybody else know what gets in their way, Summer?
I've noticed that when I really want to create something and I'm looking at all of the formulas that I've been given of how to do that, and I'm trying to fit inside those boxes, I don't fit, and I struggle, and I effort, and I contort, and I Photoshop what I know to be true to fit into the box. And it's always disastrous if I were to put a judgment on it. But I also find that the times when I get really, really curious, that like all of those preset cookie cutter ideas or formulas that work for somebody else, and I just take the fact that that's possible, but what's true for me, and I stick to the alignment of that, and I maintain curiosity that I don't already know. And it's more based in I'm certain I don't know and what if. And then it becomes more of like a scientific experiment of just adding in elements to see what happens, or taking out elements when I realize that was a disaster, let's not use that one there, but maybe it's useful someplace else. So it's not to be discarded, but just maybe less of it or more of it. So it just becomes more of like a science experiment where there's a really neutral curiosity around what if.
Nice.
And then it seems to flow.
Great. Yeah, trying to fit into those boxes. I've never had much luck with that, so.
Yeah, it's hard.
sorry, my dog is wanting to participate.
You'll have to translate for us.
Yeah. She's like, there's food there, give me food. That's the translation.
Yeah. So there's wanting comfort that gets in the way. There's wanting to put yourself in a box or use a cookie cutter formula. What else gets in your way?
For me, sometimes it has to be it has to have a meaning, or it has to be for something, not just doing because of the doing. It has to whether can I sell that? Can I get money out of this? Can I give it to somebody? There's someone I don't know the word. Loba. Loba. Was heißt Anerkennung? Sorry.
Recognition.
Oh. Sometimes I just want to have a recognition. Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you on that one. I was talking to a dear friend of mine who has 2 grandchildren. They're both girls, and one I think is 3 and 7 or 4 and 7. And he's been able to go and visit with his daughter and son-in-law and the kids. And he said the other day they were playing in the backyard, and they had big pavers in the back, and they took sidewalk chalk, and they painted each one a different, or they colored in it, each one is a different color. And one of them said, "We really need a disco ball." These are, 7 and 3, right? And they start dancing, and they're just completely in the moment. They're just letting life come through them. And I could imagine it because I've seen these girls, but you know what kids are like. They don't have any objections. They don't have any qualifications. It just comes right through them. They don't have the things that we've learned over the years about the value of doing something. It's got to be marketable. It's got to make me look good. It's got to be easy. It's got to be comfortable. But who grows from that? And who has fun doing it that way? Hi, Joanna.
Back before lockdown, I was invited to submit 2 canvases for a jury show. And man, when I start a canvas thinking I'm going to do it for that, it doesn't seem to be much fun. I got thinking. So yeah.
So I have a theory, and I would love to know what you think about this. I think when it comes down to it, the thing that gets in our way most is having too much thinking around what we're doing.
Yeah, it goes from I'm doing this period to I'm doing this for that. And then it's a whole different thing.
Yeah. You lose the joy of it, the being in the moment, playing with it.
It's like when you have an intention or an expectation, and that narrows the vision, so it takes away the creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so much fun to do stuff when you don't care what it looks like or who sees it. Or I was watching a movie about, was it Bhutan or some Nepal or something, and the Buddhist monks were making a sand mandala. Does everybody know what those are like? And it's incredible when you see up close. They're like bending over because they're on their, they're sitting on the floor, and they have these tiny little instruments to tap out the different colored sand, create this beautiful thing, and then it all gets swept away. Apparently they don't have a problem with that. But I wonder how much we would have a problem with that, or I would have a problem with that.
What about sand castles, Nina?
Yeah, that too. Right. So I just wanted to say hello, Joy. I know you just jumped onto the call.
Yes, hi everyone.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Hi.
So I was going to say that I think I find some creativity in my work, but I find that creativity is constrained when I start to become concerned about other people's opinions and whether or not, as I call it, I'm going to get whacked for crossing some political line. So I think in certain situations, creativity is something that has to be managed. And I love when I'm in the zone, whether at work or in something personal. And as someone said earlier, I'm not thinking about what I have to do. It's just flowing. And I want more moments like that. But I think it's an indicator to me right now of certain situations that I'm in, where when I start to feel that voice step in and say, well, what about somebody else? How is somebody else going to view this? That I start to recognize that creativity for me in certain situations has boundaries. And the other thing I think is that when you invest in creative things at work, you put more of yourself into it personally. And so then you become more attached to what happens to it. And it's harder to let go of it. And Nina, you know, that's one of the things I'm thinking about is, how do I let go? So how do you let go of your creations? And like the sandcastle or the mandala, not be concerned if somebody picks it up and says, this isn't what I expected, or this is crap.
Ew.
How dare you do this? Or maybe this was good, but that wasn't, or whatever. Don't give you credit. I mean, but just to be able to do what, as my mother says, you do what you do because you know it's the right thing to do. But then how do you let go of that when other people are involved in your creative output?
Yeah.
Just some thoughts as I'm listening to this.
Fabulous question. Anybody not ever had that own question in their own heads? I see some nodding here. Right. So I'm curious, because it's a wonderful question. I'm curious how you would answer that.
Us collectively?
Yes, any of the other goddesses here that would like to share their wisdom.
Say the question again. I was tripping somewhere. I need to hear it again.
Oh, you creative type, you. So, Joy, could you
Yeah.
question again?
I think some of it were observations about how my creativity, I'm a little bit more cautious about at work. I love when I'm creative at work because to me that's personally fulfilling. But I think there's more opinions and there's more politics at work. And that can also hurt more when I get feedback, you know, that maybe I did something a certain way and somebody has a different opinion. But I think the other part of is how to just show up and do your creative best, but be able to let go of it in a work situation where it's not your own. You're contributing it to the corporate, you know, mind share, and somebody might not appreciate it. Somebody might want to change it. Somebody might not recognize it or give you credit for it. So how do you invest that creativity, but then let go of what happens to it? When I was a kid, and I'll just say this, because this is an insight into my answer. When I was a kid, I did artwork, and I never showed it to my family. And my parents would buy me the best paints, the best paper, the best easels. And I would paint when everybody was taking a nap, and I wouldn't let anybody see it because I didn't want that external exposure or criticism for something that was so personal. Same thing with my music. I play my music, but I don't want to play for other people and be subject to criticism or even getting in my own head of like, well, how does that sound? And you were out of tune there and whatever.
Well, I appreciate your asking the question and sharing the background of it, because I think we've all, shouldn't speak for everyone, but I've been in that position, and I see some nodding here, so I guess I'm not the only one. So I would love to hear from you all, or whoever would like to volunteer, and just share how you would respond to that question from your own experience.
Well, I do have something to say, Joanne. I did. I did hear. I get what you're talking about. And it's funny. I'm the same. I'm not very. I don't want to hear the criticism. I don't want to hear it, and I tend to. Like I saw this. I actually saw this last week. I was having a conversation with a girlfriend. And the girlfriend came to one of the chats. We have a whole bunch. We have a series. You know, there's a whole bunch scheduled until June. And he came to one of the chats, and after that, she said, "Do you want me to tell you what I think?" And I felt my body go, "No." But I didn't say it because, I'm a coach. I'm not supposed to do that. And I said, yeah, sure. But she knows me so well that she also saw me. She saw that I was saying, no, but go ahead. And it was really interesting because I saw that she saw, which was also like mind blowing, like this is happening. I see myself do it. I see her ignoring it. And then we just move on and continue with the conversation. And I stayed with it, like I just looked at it and I called her back and I said, yes, you're right. I didn't want to hear it. Like I told her I didn't want to hear it, but thank you for telling me anyways. And what I saw was that I like you, go in my head. Like if somebody gives me a comment about whatever it is, I go in my head and then I do something with it. Like I add, like I don't just hear the information, I add to the information, and I make ultimate decisions based on that. Like it kind of like decides. And one day, sitting with that thought, just like someday somebody said, okay, well, it's a criticism. Listen to it. It's just information. If you like it, okay. If you don't like it, okay. And I've never seen it like it's just information. It's just information that somebody gave me and I could do whatever I wanted with it. Like I didn't have to add. And when I say add, I mean, I added negative stuff, right? I just pile on more negatives. But I don't have to do that. I can just see, is there something in there that I can incorporate in my creation? Or do I want to incorporate in my creation or not, Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. You're right. It's the being objective versus taking it personally.
Yeah.
There's something that you reminded me of. I'll quote Michael Neal now, where I've heard him say more than once that we make up imaginary futures and then take actions that are going to point us right to the futures that we made up. And I know that I was mocked for my tinkering as a kid. I was drawn to take things apart and try and put them back together again. And girls don't do that. And so that didn't feel good. And so I kind of made up in my head that if I went that way again, I might get mocked, and that I didn't like that. So I made up that I'm not creative and I'm not, there are other messages too. And I mishmashed them together into I have no talent and I'm not creative. And I lived that way for a really long time. And boy, I had to melt through a shit that was like solid resistance by the time my art for a year or two was so tight, and I wanted to control it, and I wanted it to look like something good that I was also making up. So yeah, so that's what came up for me.
I want to add, Joanna, and to everybody, but like I'm talking to Jack as of the conversation we were having, but like if I look, I didn't turn my phone off, I'm so sorry. If I look at these chats, when I created them, like in my mind, I had a structure. This is how it's gonna go, okay? It's gonna start on time. I'm gonna say this for about 2 minutes because I'm corporate, right? I come from the corporate world and I've got the structure you have to be structured and all this. And I said, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to introduce that. And then, you know, like I had all this structure. And in the very beginning, my very first chat, the person that was with me, she's like, let's just open it up. And in the past, I would have taken that as an offense, you know, like, you're screwing up my creation, man, you know? But now, I didn't have any resistance to it whatsoever. I heard and I said, let's play. And now that's all I want. Like Nina, when Nina came in, I was like, yes, she says, I want to open it up. Yes, open it up, man. Because I like, it's so cool. We're all creating together. Like being able to listen to everybody makes us create something together. It brings us somewhere we don't even know we're going to go.
Thank you.
When I used to work at a corporate, fast-paced, chaotic, intense, there's a lot of opportunity to create systems to benefit the process or to benefit the client or to make it easier to communicate. And in the very beginning of working on systems to make it better, I put so much of my hope and desire and intention and thinking into creating something that if it was rejected or changed, I took that so personal that what I was creating wasn't good enough, or that it wasn't helpful enough, or that it didn't matter. And then I learned to open it up to look at what is my base intention around even addressing something, to put work into it, and presenting the intention with some possible solutions. And then there was more of a buy-in, that change was available, but what ended up being built was more of a collaboration of many ideas melded together into a whole different system or a whole different idea or a whole different process that oftentimes became more effective or functional because it was looked at from so many different viewpoints. And I remember my sister was moving and we were running out of boxes, and the last thing to pack up was all the stuff on the hangers. And that's like the most awkward, messy, difficult thing to pack because hangers do their own thing. And her best friend and I had the closet challenge. And I remember grabbing a broom handle, and we're hanging everything on the broom handle because now it could transport. And we ended up slipping garbage bags underneath them so they were protected in these garments, and then wrapping the straps around the hangers. And now we had all these little packages of individual garment bags where the clothes was wrapped up and protected and the hangers were all contained. And then we just had these stacks of packages. And I am clear that I would never have come up with that idea by myself. And it's also evident that as we were building this end result, that wasn't what she was visualizing either when she came in with the plastic bag idea. But the combination of the two created a third idea that neither of us envisioned, but both of us appreciated. And it was just lovely to recognize that when I don't know and she doesn't know, but I have an idea and she has an idea, this third product becomes like genius. And it was really that intention and then the curiosity, and it's not personal. Like I didn't create it, she didn't create it, it was a we. And it was just lovely.
What do you hear in that, Joanna? Would you prefer to be called Joy or Joanna?
I don't know yet. Joy was my nickname as a kid, and I would like to be more joyful, but Joanna is my corporate, serious, adult, analytical.
We need to call you Joy.
Yeah. So I'm hearing some things that are really resonating, and I don't want to add too much to this, but I think it's interesting that identity is tied to this, that how we view ourselves and our worth. For me, that's what's coming up in me as I listen to yes, there's benefit. Some are, we can come up with, 1 + 1 is not 2, it's 3, it's greater than. Or Sue, the impact that criticism can have, especially when we're younger, in terms of shaping our own definition of ourselves and what we're good at or not, and how that can carry over even into adulthood, into a corporate environment where supposedly we're all adults and professional and well-developed and whole, and we're not. There's stuff there from our childhood that's coming up. And then, Jasmine, also I go into situations with this control. That's where control comes in. Like, I'm responsible for this. I'm a trained project manager. I'm a program manager. This is how it's going to go so that we can all have a successful outcome. But that means being open to other people's thoughts and how do I let go. So as I get older, I want to be less attached. But the funny thing is that I'm hanging on with both hands, to this identity that I have at work that may be eroding because things do change over time. So it's a combination of, I want to let go, but I don't want to let go. And I want to be open, but I'm scared to be open. So I wish it was just one simple thing. I think creativity is a really good thing. I think getting to it or using it or exploring it has some other things tied to it for me, that I'm recognizing from listening to you. So it's helpful, especially right now at work. And maybe also my time at home I'm going to appreciate more as play, where I don't have to worry about all of these things. My play at work, I'm just going to have to recognize the benefits and what I want to strive for, the openness, the collaboration. And that's going to consciously mean maybe drawing myself some little figure or something that says, let go of everything.
Yeah.
So
You're definitely looking the right way.
yeah.
What helps me in moments like that is to remember that person and their criticism, that person has got the same divine energy making up every cell of their selves and are worthy of as much love and attention as I am with my own history. And then that just kind of helps me.
Mm-hmm. I think though sometimes in work environment we feel like if we're not the ones coming up with the ideas and we're not the ones implementing the ideas, then we're not contributing the value and might be viewed as less valuable and be subject to, whatever, being dismissed either, personally or dismissed in practicality.
Sure, that comes up for me as a solopreneur with clients, with one-on-one clients. That same kind of thing comes up, that navigation and how I'm seeing the relationship and how I'm seeing my value. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
What I like about what you're observing, Joy, is that you're seeing something about how your inner workings are limiting you.
Mm.
And that, I want to point that out because that knowing, that noticing is a really, really valuable skill. And the more you notice what's in your way, the likelier you are to find a way to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit earlier before you came on the call about where creativity comes from. And that's sort of a mystery, sort of, like, yes, completely. And yet when there's more than one of us collaborating on something, you get to see how everybody has their own very unique perspective on what should be done with it and how it should be handled. And it's really useful to remember that everybody is living in their own separate reality, that's their own thinking, and how that perspective gives them the wherewithal to say, I like it, I don't like it, it's crap, it's beautiful. But as you were saying, Jasmine, it's just information for us. And if we don't take it personally, and we can see that it's a little easier to say, okay, this is my contribution to the pot. Where is it going to go from here?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think everyone here said something to the effect that it isn't about us. It's about something that comes through us. And then where it goes, nobody knows.
Yeah, it's information.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, Boba, are you on your way out? Anything you'd like to share before you leave? And thank you for being here.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. Well, I was reminded of my time as playing in an orchestra. So just the stakes are pretty high as far as functioning and contributing, and yet at the same time, what I also always have experienced with any kind of criticism, it's always exposed what it is that I believe about myself. And so if I haven't completed something in my own being about a worry or a concern or just a judgment that I hold, then the so-called external judgment has power over me. But it always directly points to my own holding on that I fear then at that moment is true. And if I can really heal, sorry for the sound here, for the noise, if I can really heal my own relationship with that energy, then a criticism can be just a suggestion or something I can take into consideration, but it doesn't paralyze me or, has that power over me. So.
Thank
Well,
you.
everyone, thank you very much for being here. We are coming to a close already. It went very, very fast. Yes, Joanna, I went much faster for you, eh? I do want to say, it occurred to me in all the other chats, I didn't mention this, and I wanted to invite you all to any chats that you'd like to come and see. All you have to do is go to my Facebook page and go to my events and choose the one you'd like to see. I have a different partner every time, and sometimes Nina actually just pops in and says hello. So that's possible. And also I wanted to let you know that for my super coach certification, I need to log in hours of coaching. So I'm looking for coachees. So if there's anybody here that's looking for coaching on something you would like to have clarity on, you can join. You can send me a message, and we can have a conversation. And I know that Nita also would love to have a chat. So if you want to chat with Nina, you can do that too. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much for coming, Nina. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. It was fun.
Joanna, Lucy, thank you so much.